The best legal advice I'd ever received was to always
pay your taxes.
Welcome to Hot Docket, the show where we talk about winning marketing strategies that have built the most successful law firms.
Join us every 2 weeks for the latest trends and tactics to grow your law firm.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Hot Docket Podcast.
Today, we're going to be talking to Justin Wallace, who specializes in first-party insurance disputes.
Let's get cooking. Yes.
No.
Yes. Justin, we're really excited to have you. I'd love if you could just start by telling us a little bit more about your firm and your practice. What do you guys do?
Thanks, Bobby. Yeah. So I started out after law school litigating on behalf of insurance companies. And I did that for 12 years and became a partner at a firm that worked for insurance companies. And about 3 years ago, decided to switch teams, so to speak. And what we do is we sue insurance companies when people aren't being treated fairly by the insurance process. So most commonly, that's a claim that's denied, be it a health insurance claim, a property claim, a life insurance claim. Sometimes it relates to like an insurance agent and how they handled you when you came in and you gave them the information that they wanted and they wrote a policy for you. But generally speaking, we help people who aren't being treated fairly by the insurance process.
Yeah, so you're one of the good lawyers.
I wouldn't go that far, but I'm one of the lawyers who helps people. And I feel like that is my goal, is to take somebody who, it's daunting. And one of the things that I hear over and over again is that, the insurance company, all they do is figure out whether or not insurance claims are covered. And they figured mine out and they said it wasn't covered. And they sent me a note and it was a nice note and they said it wasn't covered. And, who am I? I don't know. I've never done this before. Like they know what they're doing and I trust them. And so, it feels good to give those people a voice because I don't agree with that. I've always been kind of a fighter for the little guy, and the idea that the powers that be would just kind of send you something that they want you to think is true and then it becomes truth because they say it. It's a fun thing to fight against.
Most of the firms we work with are personal injury firms, and most of the advertising consumers see is for personal injury firms. And when you say that you fight against insurance companies, a lot of people might hear that and put the two together. Do you want to tell us in a little more detail about how you're different? Earlier, you brought up that you go after home policies as well as health insurance claims, but it seems like you go after insurance companies for just about anything. Do you want to get into a little bit of detail?
Yeah, no, thanks for that opportunity, Andrew. So yes, we are not a personal injury firm, so to speak. And I have a lot of really good friends who do a really good job handling personal injury cases. And so if you're hurt in a situation that somebody else has caused and you need a lawyer to sue the insurance company for the other person that was involved, who was at fault for causing your injuries. We have a lot of places we could help you with, but that's not what we do. We usually sue your insurance company. That is to say, your insurance company entered into a contract with you that you paid for, and they're not living up to their end of the bargain. So most of the personal injury cases you hear about are what's called third-party cases, insofar as you're suing an insurance company, but you're only really suing them because they insure the person who hurt you. What we do is we sue your insurance company, who unfortunately is also hurting you sometimes. But, it's a good way to bring up the importance of having strong partners when doing what I'm doing, because I'm doing something a little different than most people. And so it's super important to me to work with in particular, a marketing firm like Meatpug that can specifically target the different areas of denied claims and that sort of thing that I'm looking for. I'm not trying to participate in the giant market of personal injury law firms or personal injury marketing. I mean, you need a big budget to really be a player in that sort of field, and that's just not what I do. So I try to separate myself from my friends who help people who are injured and who get them just compensation. But I'm more there to try to deal with situations like, say, a life insurance policy or your own healthcare plan that won't pay your medical bills and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so you talked about carving out a niche and not trying to compete directly with personal injury firms. What have been some of those strategies that you've seen work and really help carve yourself out so you're not directly competing?
Billboards are a common form of law firm advertisement, at least in Wisconsin, I'm sure elsewhere as well. And you drive down any highway and you see want to get the insurance company, hire this injury law firm. And so I even got to the point where on my own personal Facebook page, I think with some assistance from you folks, we created a graphic that said, we are not a personal injury firm. Again, I have many friends who do this work, and I have people who approach me a lot and say, hey, I heard you sue insurance companies. I think that's what I need. This insurance company is only offering me X. And I will almost always send them over to one of my friends. But I can see where the confusion exists. And when we first entered this marketplace, it's a combination both that the words, the going after the insurance company thing is kind of common to both personal injury and to what I do, but also because people have seen so many ads for injury lawyers. When they see another ad, they're almost conditioned to think that it's another ad for a personal injury lawyer because that's all that they've seen and that's the context that they're giving it. So I've tried to come right out and say, I'm different than an injury lawyer. I'm here for what your insurance company isn't doing you justice.
Yeah. That is a huge difference. And I think it's like something that we've seen working with some of the personal injury law firms. They love billboards. They love to be ostentatious. It's kind of refreshing in many ways to work with somebody who wants to be super targeted, find those customers where they are, and almost like guerrilla marketing style.
Yeah, and what I have some advantages in what I do. In Wisconsin, this is not nearly as well developed a practice area as the personal injury cases are. Ever since probably 30, 40, 50 years ago, it's become pretty clear to lawyers that you can make money if you sign up clients who have a serious injury that was caused by somebody else's negligence, and you do so on a contingency fee. There are other law firms in my area, including one that a couple of my partners or former partners at the insurance firm operate, that there's maybe 3 of us who specialize in this stuff. Again, there are probably 10 or 20 firms in Wisconsin who have a insurance bad faith or policyholder side representation type tabs on their practice areas homepage on their law firm. But this is all I do. There's maybe 2 to 3 other lawyers in Wisconsin who also do only what I do. Our issue is not with competition like it is in the personal injury side. Our issue is simply with reaching people. I think along the same lines as the way people conceptualize these advertisements. People know when they get injured by somebody else that they can call a lawyer because they've been told that 80 million times on television and in print and on billboards and that sort of thing. I think when people have a denied insurance claim, sometimes they don't even know what the starting ground is. And sometimes it's not a lawyer necessarily. There are other individuals like public adjusters who help people who are struggling to get an insurance claim prepared. But yeah, I think that working in this specialized area has caused me to have to take many sorts of different marketing strategies. And I can't overemphasize the importance of having a partner who has really worked with me since day one and helped me put into place some of the ideas that I have because, as you guys know, no lawyer actually needs a marketing company. We know everything. I'm being sarcastic, of course, but like I'm able to the back and forth of feeding my sometimes crazy ideas and having them put into a plane of realism and actual marketing value is just amazing.
Yeah. And you talked about a brand. I want to talk a little bit more about you starting your own firm and what that journey looked like. Can you walk us through what that looked like? How difficult was it? Do you recommend it for everyone? Kind of just tell us how that's been for you.
Yeah. Thanks for the question. It took me about 30 days from the final point of the decision to leave my last firm until the day Wallace Law opened. And that was chaotic. Luckily I left on good terms with my former partners. It became clear that I just needed my own business and my own shop. I had some specific ideas about how I want to run things and kind of what areas I wanted to get into. And I felt like I would be short-selling myself if I at least didn't give my ideas a chance. And if they burn out, I'll find another job somewhere. But so far, we've had some relatively decent success. But I'll tell you, it's somewhat daunting to kind of go from being a partner in a somewhat established place with a building to like, I'm going to just completely start from scratch. Starting with the financing, I get a lot of credit from a bank and talk to bankers who I had some relationship with. I brought a fair number of my files with me. The people who were working with me at the prior firm really only knew me. And so that was a fairly easy transition, but it helped in terms of kind of initial startup to have some contingency fee files that were somewhat worked and getting close to the point of providing some actual income to give some seed money to start the process. Obviously, in modern times, website marketing, branding, if you're doing this sort of work, I think there's no substitute for, when I was working for insurance companies, it was a totally different ballgame because we had 10 or 12 big companies who, when they got sued, they would call our office and say, hey, we have a new file, and that file would get assigned to a lawyer. And in fact, we were somewhat discouraged from doing anything that would, rock the boat. Like, you have to assume that half of your claims adjusters are Democrats and half are Republicans. And so there is nothing you could say politically that would not cause you to lose half your clients. And so I had to kind of be very quiet and, I didn't have much of a public persona, but, trying to find people who have denied insurance claims or that sort of thing, and the personal injuries along the same lines, even the folks who do family law have to be a little more gregarious and, find marketing solutions to make sure that somebody's going to pick up the phone and find you. It's all those little details of probably 30 or 40 tasks to accomplish. But, I've been a partner at a law firm since 2017. I'd effectively run a firm insofar as being one of the managers or partners there for a number of years. And I was able to find some support staff early on that was super helpful. One piece of advice I would give somebody, starting up from anew is you need to find at least one go-to staff member who can take care of stuff. I only have so much stamina, guys. I'm sure you're kind of in the same boat. Like there's only so much stuff that I am willing to take care of before the battery's drained and it's just not going to happen anymore. And so having somebody who can take some things off your plate, in a paralegal sense, even somebody who's worked at a law firm before and knows some of the details, I think is immensely valuable too.
Justin, in a year and a half, I have not seen you with a drained battery.
One other thing that I would emphasize to anybody starting a new practice is take your vacations. I take my vacations. I think it's important. I think you need to get out of the office. You need to work to live and not vice versa. I try when I'm here and when I'm practicing and when I'm doing my job to be fully in it and fully committed to it. And I just don't think there's a human being on earth who can do that 52 weeks a year, 5 days a week. You need your time off and you need to recharge your battery, because I've got, 100 or so of people's kind of most important problems right now. And on a daily basis that it starts to wear you if you're giving it the sort of attention and energy that it deserves,
Agreed.
Yep. So for other attorneys that are listening to this podcast and they hear about your case type and they don't have a referral relationship set up yet, is there any advice you could give them if they practice other areas? Like, let's say they do family law or divorce or personal injury, and they have a potential plaintiff calling them for a first party issue and they want to find a good referral partner. Can you give us some tips and some common pitfalls that some of these cases run into and how they could basically do a better job in helping those folks who are calling?
Yeah, for sure. So there are some of these disputes that I think a practitioner could take a look at and figure out, and even sometimes start to solve on their own. I'd first advise anybody to try to get a copy of any denial letter from the client and try to get a copy of the full insurance policy so you can at least double check the basics of what's going on here. But I'd say from that point, these cases become tricky to handle. And I'll give you an example. Is in Wisconsin, there's a process that every Wisconsin insurer will go through when I file a bad faith lawsuit. They file what's called a motion to bifurcate and stay, which is they bifurcate the breach of contract claim from the bad faith claim, and then stay discovery on the bad faith claim pending the outcome of the breach of contract claim, which is pretty well established by Wisconsin case law, but isn't that prevalent in other states. We know when lawyers come in from other states in our bad faith cases and they don't file that first motion that just needs to be filed. I did work for insurance companies. It's a motion that you have to file as an insurance company. So we don't see that. And it tips you off. There are, like in most practice areas, there are things that there's no checklist out there. It's not written in a statute book. It's not specifically in any case that is really an outline, but that everybody who knows what they're doing does and helps their client and kind of has to be done. And I think really if you're a general practitioner or you practice in other areas and you get a call from somebody, I would get their denial letter and their policy, take a look at it, see what you think about the coverage situation, and try either write a letter to the carrier and see if you can't maybe get some movement on your own, or start to find somebody who really focuses on this sort of thing. My claims in my cases have different sizes too, and there are some. I have some cases over a $40,000 policy that are probably worth $10,000 or $15,000 because there's a legitimate dispute there. And I have some cases over a $40,000 policy that I've settled for $350,000 because what the carrier did and what we were able to uncover in the process was so bad that it just made those two cases so egregious. So, think about that when you hear that. Well, what is the size of the case? Well, that's the size of the compensatory damages. But is your $40,000 case worth $10,000 or is it worth $350,000? And most practitioners will probably owe it to their client to at least try to figure out which one of those two buckets that it falls into. So what I would look for in a referral source too is somebody who's worked for insurance companies before. I think that really helps my practice. I've seen what the decision-making process looks like, kind of how they think, how insurance companies, what kind of operationally and even kind of philosophically, like how they approach different sorts of claims and different sorts of situations. So I would try to find somebody like that. And one thing that I tell everybody is there aren't a ton of people who do what I do. I get calls from people all over the country on a fairly regular basis to kind of ask about some of our practice areas or that sort of thing. And oftentimes my job is to talk to people. Give me a call. I'm just a guy in Northeast Wisconsin who likes to yell at insurance companies.
With that being said, what do you think your firm does best and what's kind of driven your success?
I know the difference between the insurance companies. There are good ones and there are bad ones, and you got to treat them differently. It's worth talking to the good ones. It's not worth talking to the bad ones. If you get somebody who's had 3 or 4 cases, they're not going to have necessarily the breadth of knowledge. Okay, well, you're dealing with USAA, or you're dealing with State Farm, or you've got Travelers or Nationwide or something. Like here, I've seen this adjusted before. Here's previous strategies that worked. I think you'll lose all of that when you just don't have the overall landscape. And I will say, when you asked about personal injury law earlier, I don't really dabble either. I think every young lawyer at one point in time did. But it's a little dangerous to kind of get out of your comfort zone. I think as you get older, your practice should narrow and not vice versa. And you get really good at what you do. And that's kind of what we've done here at Wallace Law. I've brought in a couple of people with me now who are helping a lot. And I think that we are good for those cases where what you really need is to know what this insurance company is trying to do with this denial letter and what their ultimate goal is and how you can kind of navigate yourself best. Sometimes you got to yell and scream at them. Sometimes you got to poke and prod them right. Sometimes you got to send them the right statutes or send them a previous verdict that you got against them. But yeah, you lose kind of those nuances when you talk to somebody about first party claims who doesn't do just this.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Just understanding case types in and of itself is like a full-time job. There's just so much diversity in law, and understanding everything is never going to happen. So what you mentioned, kind of that niching down, getting really good in one practice, I think that's a really solid way to grow and think about your business overall.
And the practice of sending somebody something that you're not good at, it's not like, oh, I'm admitting defeat. I'm admitting that I'm not good at this. It's like you're kind of doing part of the good of the system by getting these people to the person that they know. And simultaneously, if you're a young lawyer, one of the biggest tips I would give you is you got to go out in the world and meet as many human beings as you can. Because one very valuable role in this legal industry is to be the person that everybody is talking to about their legal problems. You can go from there and you can send them off to your friends. And you know what your friends are going to do? If they're getting a bunch of referrals from you, they're going to send you referrals back in the cases that you want. And so now all of a sudden, just because a lot of people who call you first and say, hey, I need a lawyer. And for years, you've probably given them free legal advice. Now when they have a problem, you send their problem to a friend of yours who does good work. And that friend sends you back a case that's teed up for you that they got because now they're motivated to work with you. So the referral practice, I think, is really, a lot of the money-making side of the modern practice of law. Some lawyers are more referral fee heavy, where they ask, for 25 or 33% of the fee. My strategy has generally been, I will try to be as big a referral recipient as possible, and I will try to send out as many cases to the people who send me cases as I can. And it ends up being more symbiotic and fun. So think of it that way. When somebody tells you, like, as a young lawyer, like, hey, I need an expert in securities, and you're like, well, I tried a DUI case last month. It's like, just think that as an opportunity to find somebody who's really good at securities law, give them a call and say, hey, man, I got a referral for you. I know you don't know me, but like, I looked you up and you look really good. That's something that person will reciprocate. You do that enough times and you start to grow yourself a little business.
I agree. I think that's a really good way to look at the world and not try and be greedy for the sake of being greedy. be a good lawyer, send referrals to the people who are good at what they do, and over time, you're going to get the returns. You're going to garner returns. So
it's like, even if they're family members, like, don't be pretentious about it. Like, take 5 or 10 minutes and see if you can talk through the person's problem. Like, yes, you might not be able to help them. Yes, everything. But like, start to get people in the habit of bringing their legal problems to you. Like, start to like build that like training mechanism in yourself where I'm trying to condition everybody I talk to have confidence that I'm a good lawyer and I'm a good human being, and to want to send me files, to trust me, to get conditioned to, oh, I've got a legal problem. Oh, I'll call Justin. And then it takes practice, and you have to start thinking again about people in the world less as, oh, I've got this degree and they're trying to kind of steal my products for free, and more as like they're giving you an opportunity to show that you're not an idiot, and maybe if they have something serious in their future, that they may be willing to trust you with it.
Right. Exactly. Justin, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier. You were talking about separating the big cases from the small cases. I think everybody who's listening would love if there was just a magic ticket to unlocking the big cases, right? If all they could get was the big cases, they'd love that. What's been for you a successful mechanism for generating those big cases? Have you found any secret insights that you can share where you've said this has been a great referral source for big cases, whereas this other source, I'm only getting small? I know that's not always easy to do, but any insight you could share in kind of that separation?
Yeah, I would say that the most significant referrals that I get still come from other lawyers who I know. I would say, it's probably down to 60% or so of our business is people who I've worked with in the past. I've got one of my good friends in the business is a consumer protection lawyer, and we actually became buddies when he was a plaintiff and I had an insurance company on a case, and we ended up making friends because I liked his style and everything. But more and more, long-term care stuff has been really picking up with some great success based on some of the work that MePug's been doing. I just settled a case well into the 6 figures that we got on a long-term care denial just through our website. And so I think that that's kind of our key in the marketing, is the more specific thing we go after, the more success we seem to have with it, which makes a lot of sense because, a lot of times we're plowing new ground here, right? How many clients in your guys' history have came to you and said, hey, how many long-term care insurance coverage denials can you get me?
Zero.
I'm not surprised. But so we're plowing new ground together, and it's starting to work more and more consistently. And that's one of the things that I've been thinking about a fair bit over the last year and 3 months is like, what does it mean to be a law business owner? Yeah, as opposed to being like a grunt worker or litigator, which I did for a long time and I can do. But what does it mean to be a business owner? And to me, what that's starting to turn into is I see a lot of trends. And what I need to do is be the guy at the top who is locating the trends and figuring out where we're making money on the different cases we're seeing. Or if we get one good case in and we settle it, and then another one that looks similar comes in and we settle it for even more. And then a third one comes in and it's like, maybe we got something over here. And we should start trying to target those people and trying to encourage more of them, either a statewide, a Midwestern, a national basis, to contact our office. I think that part of my process has been how can I target the specific kind of niche ideas that I've got. And so I need a marketing partner, frankly, that can do that for me. That's something I wouldn't even know that I have that ability, frankly, when I started this business. Like when I started this, it was mostly me and my referral sources and a couple of public adjuster who called, and some other, insurance industry people. But, the power to be able to identify trends and then, try to target people specifically in those trends that are making me money. Honestly, that's the word that comes to mind is powerful. Like it's a strong way to be able to run the sort of business that I'm trying to run.
Yeah, I think you've always been a really strong partner at pointing us in the right direction, giving us guidance on those trends, and then kind of saying, go. That's something I think all listeners could probably kind of take away is, even though your marketing partner is there to do their job and get you more cases, the more information you can provide, the more guidance you can give is just going to be like firepower to add to the toolkit. So something to take away.
Yeah, agreed. And that's, you guys have been pretty amazing. There are going to be things that don't work. And I'm okay with that, right? Like, sometimes you throw $5,000 or $10,000 at a marketing effort, and then you're just not making money off the cases that come in. Like, that's life, that's every business. And I'd rather strike out 9 times and just hit a total mother load once than not try it all, And we try a lot of stuff. Like, it's been super enjoyable and super profitable. And I appreciated that side of the business because that's something I'd always be able to, not always be able to, but I can generally identify the trends, but I don't know that I know what to do with them from that point.
Yep. It's super interesting too, having worked with you on a couple of these projects. Different strategies work very differently for each one because the consumer journey is different. Sometimes it's as simple as putting a page up and getting the SEO traffic because it's something that consumers are searching out. Other times, people don't even know that what is happening to them is something that they could do something about. And you have to get in front of their eyes before they seek things out. So it has been very interesting. And as a business owner, I'm sure that allows you to grow and learn a lot because the business side of all of these is very different on each side, just like the legal side might be different as well in the process. You have to build around it.
Yeah, and that goes part and parcel with trying to plow new ground. I truly believe that's the way to find success in the law business is, there as opposed to doing this, being a divorce lawyer, being a business lawyer, doing the same things other people do. If you could find that area that just needs it, that nobody's found before, that these people need lawyers, they have no idea they need lawyers. These cases are fairly substantial. These insurance companies are paying on them. You can do pretty well for yourself, and that's how I like to operate. And so I'm glad that you guys enjoy it too, because it's obviously it's different. I'm sure you have some clients who ask you to put them into the stream of X, and this is entirely different. This is trying to figure out what's going to appeal to person Y, as opposed to just jumping on the well-known and researched and proven bandwagon. How many times have we asked ourselves the question, what does somebody with a denied insurance claim Google? I've thought about that question for 4 years, nonstop, and I still don't think I know the answer. But it's, those are the fun conceptual problems to work through.
Yeah. And like you said, I don't think that that's like a dream situation for every marketer. I think there's a mindset you have to have going into that where you kind of know what you don't know, right? Or you don't know what you don't know. And a huge part of this is just the discovery process and learning, which is great. And, I had another denied claim lawyer asked me about my website today, and I'll point it over to you guys. You may end up spurning a denied insurance practice marketing. An empire.
An empire, that's right. Because once you've done it once, it'll be a little easier the next time, hopefully. So Justin, I want to just kind of close out over here with a little game that we put together here. It's going to be a complete this sentence game. We'll go back and forth, and I'll tell you when it's blank. You put the blank, just the same way as every other complete this sentence game works. As in kind of the first thing that comes to my head, like just spit it out kind of deal?
Pretty much. Some of them you might have to think for a second, but that's fine. Okay, I'll do the first one. The most important quality in a good lawyer is blank.
Passion. You got to care. I can train people to do stuff and how to litigate cases and stuff, but if you don't care, you don't care.
The best legal advice I'd ever received was to always
pay your taxes.
That's a great answer. Okay. Next one. If I weren't a lawyer, I would probably be a blank.
Statistician, a mathematician of some sort, probably. I was a math kid growing up. I was on that path for a while.
Smarty pants.
If you have a first-party insurance dispute, who do you call?
Wallace Law, baby. That was the easiest one.
That is the easiest one. So thanks for joining us, Justin. This has been a great show. We've really enjoyed talking to you. And as always, we love having you as a client. You're always eager to learn. We recommend anybody who has any questions about their claims, if you've been denied, if you've been lowballed, obviously, Justin's your guy, Wallace Insurance Law. And again, if you're an attorney and you're looking for somebody to send those cases to, you don't handle them, Justin's your guy. He really knows his stuff, and I couldn't recommend him more.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. I've said enough about BeatBug, I think, but it's been a pleasure working with you guys. It's been a year and 3 months. We're killing it.
Thanks, Justin.
Take care, guys.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Hot Docket. We're your hosts, Bobby and Andrew, founders of MeanPug, the marketing agency for ambitious law firms.
Have questions about marketing or anything we covered today? Email us at clark@meanpug.com. Be sure to subscribe to learn more.